Hello, friends in Ireland, and anywhere else you might have got the link and tuned in. In case we haven't had the pleasure of meeting, I'm Patricia Fripp, and our mutual friend, Eric Fitzpatrick, has invited me to come to Dublin to deliver a seminar in October. In fact, it's October the 18th. And the purpose of our event is for you to get to know me and me to get to know you a little bit. And then we'll see, perhaps we would all like to get together in October. I realize it is 8 o'clock in the evening for you, so no doubt you've relaxed after a hard day. Hopefully you've got a cup of tea or some Guinness or whatever you need to enjoy our time together. We plan to go around 30 minutes plus, take your questions, and as long as you're engaged, we're happy to stay. So I'm Patricia Fripp, and let me introduce you to Paul, who is our moderator, and he will tell you what he will be doing for you.
Hello everyone. Throughout the call we will be having polling questions. They will be coming up to the right of your screen. You can, once you answer and vote on the polling question, you can go back to the chat window by clicking chat, and the polls will be up for approximately 60 seconds.
Wonderful. Well, the first question we will be asking you after some introductory remarks is, are you a Toastmaster? And Eric suggested that Fripp, perhaps as most people probably don't know you unless they heard Darren LaCroix, why don't you give us a snapshot of your career? And that is a good way to start all our stories. Because what you might know is that now I am a past president of the National Speakers Association, a Hall of Fame keynote speaker, and have enjoyed a lot of career success as a speaker, executive speech coach, and sales presentation skills trainer. However, where we are is not as interesting as where we started from and how we got there. As a young woman living in a small town in England, the south of England, a town called Wimborne in the county of Dorset, my brother was brilliant, and I realized, well, I'm not that smart. I'm about 15th in a class of 30. I'm probably more artistic than academic. And I became a hairstylist, and I loved it, and I was very successful. And at age 20, arrived in America, no job, nowhere to live, didn't know anyone, had $500. I parlayed my hairstyling to become one of the first men's hairstylists when it was a new industry, working in a very posh salon. This was in the financial district of San Francisco, and all our clients were movers and shakers, and the leaders in the business community, which was a great education. Because as you know, when it comes to developing your own experience and your own knowledge, you can learn from other people. And I asked all my executives, you know, what made you the best salesperson? How did you turn your little business into an entity that a big company wanted to pay you millions of dollars for? So it was a great education. I started traveling nationwide for a hair product company doing seminars to hairstylists. And I took the Dale Carnegie course and the Dale Carnegie sales course, and I loved it. And my mentor, who had sent me to Dale Carnegie, said, Patricia, you have to go to Toastmasters and keep practicing the skills you developed in Dale Carnegie. So the first question, and you have up to 60 seconds to answer it, just of the people who are live, because we realize a lot of individuals signed in and will actually watch this as a replay. Of the people who are live, would you like to answer the question, are you a Toastmaster? And how you find that, if you look at the right of your screen and click on the polls button. Paul will put that up. And while you're doing that, so what I was doing is I went through Dale Carnegie and Toastmasters. And I found that my executives who were asking what I was doing, saying, well, if you're speaking a hairstylist, speak to my Rotary Club, Kiwanis Club, Lions Club. And I discovered, and if you are an entrepreneur, take note of this, the least expensive way that I can promote my business is to speak at service clubs. And I found that the people who came to the service clubs came to my salon. And my executives started asking me to speak at their company meetings. Went to hear a professional speaker who gave me some of his time, and he said, Patricia, you absolutely must go to the National Speakers Association convention. And I'm a great believer if someone you admire and wish to emulate gives you advice, you don't say how much does it cost, you take it. So I went to NSA, and all right, Paul, can you tell them about the poll?
Yes, the poll is actually it's in the chat window at this point, just for the moment. And the question is, are you a Toastmaster? And then we have 3 of our attendees that say yes, they are a Toastmaster.
Okay, so the rest aren't. And Paul, your picture isn't very good, so I know you were having technology problems. We could only see the bottom part of your face. So I just want to put you on notice. We all want to look good for our friends. So once I went to the National Speakers Association, frankly, the rest was history. Now, what might interest you to know, when I went to Dale Carnegie and Toastmasters, there were a lot of individuals who had the same really aspirations as I did. Wow, wouldn't it be great to get paid to speak? Wouldn't it be great to be able to command an audience? And the difference between those who want to and those who actually do it are those who go out and learn and study. We all get very enthusiastic to start. Fortunately, I loved speaking enough that I've continued pursuing and learning for over 30 years. So I bet Eric would then say, Fripp, why don't you tell us some of your best lessons? And as promised, there are 5 presentation techniques, or 5 areas that you need to focus on. 1, start. 2, structure. 3, stories. 4, emotional connection. And 5, razor sharp specificity. So let's start with, how do you start a presentation? It doesn't matter if you're speaking in the boardroom, a Toastmasters, convention hall, in your office, or a sales meeting. The first 30 seconds and the last 30 seconds have the most impact. Come out punching, grab the audience's attention. And some of the different ways that you can do that, you might, for example, start with a question. Many individuals start with a question. They might say, have you ever walked into a room full of strangers and didn't know what to say? And if I were coaching you, I would say, that's a good opening, but what would make it great would be to say, how often have you walked into a room of strangers and not known what to say? And you see the subtle difference. If somebody was in a situation once, whether they liked it or not, and you're offering a solution of how to make that pain or discomfort go away, if they did it once, it doesn't matter. Hey, I'm not going to do that again. However, if you say how often, which represents that this is a frequent challenge, then people probably would want to know the answer. Another way to start would be a rhetorical question. And it might sound something like this. If I were to ask you, is 2014 the year you tripled the quality of your presentations? Perhaps you'd say yes. Perhaps you'd say no. Most likely you would say, Patricia, I would love it to be, can you tell me how? And then I can say, great news. You're at the right place at the right time, because what you are about to learn is. So you see, there's a question, a rhetorical question. It could be an interesting statistic or little known fact. One of my favorite examples is when I was booked to speak to 350 Seventh-day Adventist pastors. And these are biblical scholars, and my presentation was how to design and deliver a more charismatic sermon. And what we always have to do as we're walking in to speak to a group, we need to consider, what are they thinking? What questions would they have about the situation, the event, or you, the speaker? And I realized even the most gracious audience, they would be thinking, one, she's the only person on the program who isn't a minister. How can anyone who isn't a minister tell me how to write a better sermon? I write one every week. And three, I bet she isn't even a Seventh-day Adventist, which I'm not. I chose to start the presentation with an interesting statistic or little known fact from their world, not mine. And this is a great way to build credibility. I walked out and said, 465 times in the Bible, it said it came to pass. It did not say it came to stay. And unless your sermon is well constructed, artfully crafted, and charismatically delivered, it will not come to stay in the hearts, minds, and lives of your congregation. That immediately engaged me. So you can start with a question, a rhetorical question, interesting statistic or little known fact. You can start with a story. You can start with a bold statement. It never ceases to amaze me that intelligent, well-educated and ambitious individuals frequently overdeveloping the number one skill that is guaranteed to position them ahead of the crowd, namely developing the ability to stand up and speak eloquently with confidence, or at very least stagger to their feet and say anything at all. While I continue, Paul, why don't you set up a polling question, and the next one would be, do you realize the career advantages of being a good speaker? So one, there is, you will make more sales. If you are in sales, you will make more sales by being more powerfully persuasive than your competitors, by having a better, certainly a better structured presentation. 3, you will build your confidence. 4, certainly you can get promoted when you have the confidence to share your ideas. So with that, we'll just see. Paul, can we handle the poll? Is this okay?
Yes, the poll was in the chat window, and
yes,
we had 100% of people answered, said yes, that they do realize the career advantages of being a good speaker.
Perfect, which is why, and I'm glad you're back color by Technicolor, Paul, so I'm glad that's worked well for you. So we're going to start. Well, we all realize the impact of being a good speaker. So then we're going to look at how do you structure your presentation. Every presentation has a premise or a big idea, and your structure is around the big idea. So for example, the premise of this presentation is you can be a more powerful, persuasive presenter? And if I made that statement to you, say, wow, Patricia, I want to do that. How would I do it? And your talking points make your case. Your talking points are what leads to, as my friend Darren LaCroix, after hearing this, he says your talking points prove your premise. Your points of wisdom, which are your chunks of content, explain how you would be more powerfully persuasive. In this case, it would be when you understand and adopt the 5 Fripp best practices. How do you start? How do you structure? How do you tell good stories, emotionally connect, and add razor sharp specificity? So you can see you build your presentation logically around your central theme. This would be true if your presentation was 10 minutes or 2 days. So let's look at stories. In fact, perhaps, Paul, we can get the next polling question ready, which is this information valuable that they're listening to. Stories are about people, flesh and blood characters that our audience can relate to, which means we need to just give enough information that the audience has some empathy for the characters. So, for example, one of my favorite stories that I've enjoyed telling for many years is about a man I met called Larry Mariottini when I was a hairstylist. And and there's a certain formula that I certainly will be teaching when I'm in Ireland, and you can grab now. It's when, where, who, what happened. So the opening line to the story is, I'll never forget the first time I met Larry Mariottini. It was 10:45 on a Tuesday in 1972. So you know when it was, and it's very important, as this is way in the past, that you know when it is. So when was it? Where was it? I walked into the lobby of this very shishi men's hairstyling salon where I worked, and there he sat looking most uncomfortable. So now you know when, where, and now you're going to find out about who. Walked into the lobby and met Larry Mariottini. He was looking most uncomfortable. So then I introduce the character, and then what happens is the rest of the story. And what you will find is, whenever possible, when you're telling a story, use the dialogue of the character. So, for example, rather than saying, I had a conversation with my boss and he told me that I was going to get fired. That is reporting on the dialogue. If you were to say, I walked into my boss's office and he said, Patricia, you're fired. And you can add a lot more theatrics and drama when you actually deliver the dialogue. And stories are always about people. So you need characters, you need dialogue, and it has to be very obvious there's a point to the story. So at this point, Paul, can we have the poll? Is this information helpful?
Yes, everyone that voted in it said yes, that the information is very helpful.
Well, perfect, good. And can you remind them how they can write questions, Paul? Do we have any questions so far?
No questions so far. If anyone would like to ask a question, then you can go into the chat window and post your short and specific question, and we'll answer that live.
All right, perfect. Now let's look at emotional connection. And this really comes from one of my friends who's a speaker wanted to interview me for his blog. And after we'd had a 30-minute conversation about presentation skills and the 5 areas and examples. He said, Patricia, what is the one secret of giving a good speech? And of course, I said, there's no one secret. And then I realized, and a brand new Frippicism was about to leap from my lips. And that's what I call my wisdom, Frippicisms. I said, there is no one secret. However, if there were, it would be that the subject is of interest to your audience. And you might be thinking, Patricia, I'm passionate about my subject. I don't know if my audience is. And this is our job as a speaker, is to learn to speak more as an audience advocate, to look at our message from the point of view of the audience. So what I would like you to do, if you have a quick short comment, you can tell me what I need to know about speaking in Dublin. So if you have any short, specific comments that I need to know about you to make my time in Dublin, especially when I'm speaking at an open event Friday night and the all-day seminar, what I need to know about you. And certainly Paul can read some of the colorful comments and I can see them after. So we're talking about emotional connection, making your audience interested in your subject. So it's important to know who they are and why they're there for this event. And I know about you, one, that Eric said you're interested in speaking, and you prove it by signing up at 8 o'clock at night. 2, I know that you have an interest in speaking, or you wouldn't be here. So you're proving that with your actions. And of course, all our friends who watch this as a replay, again, if they watch it, they're interested. How you phrase your comments can make a major difference how you connect to your audience. So for example, many speakers say, I am going to talk about what I would like to talk about first. Well, that's all about you. So I'm suggesting after your opening remarks, it's always what you will learn, what you will experience, what you will hear. And I recommend we all need to have a list of you-focused phrases. Have you ever had the experience? You know what it's like when. How often have you had this happen? If you had been with me when I was in London, these are ways that you can bring your audience into your speech. And one of my favorite openings that has been very well adopted, and I give it to you, is, I wish you could have been there. Now understand, if you transition into a story or you open a speech with, I wish you could have been there, you have to take them somewhere they would have want to go. You don't take them to one of the most miserable moments of your life. And I would suggest, if your speech is about some sort of drama or tragedy, you have to look at how you open your presentation. You do not want to depress people at the beginning of your speech. So with that, Paul, do we have any comments that I need to know about?
Not quite yet. No comments have come through.
All right. Would you like to ask our friends if they saw Darren LaCroix speak when he was in Ireland? So while Paul is writing to see, I'd just be curious if any of you saw Darren, who's a great speaker, and we do a lot of coaching camps together. So you're going to start strong. You're going to structure conversationally and logically. You're going to tell stories about flesh and blood characters, and you're going to add plenty of dialogue. Then you're going to emotionally connect to your audience. And one of the major ways is you focused language and looking at it from that point of view, from their point of view. And then another way, the fifth way, is using specific language. Now, raised in the south of England, certainly English people speak in a more formal way, perhaps, than Americans do. I cannot make the comment for Ireland because I haven't been there yet. However, what I have noticed in American and business is language is getting very sloppy. And what we have to do, our job, is as a speaker and communicator, is to speak, to be remembered and repeated. We want our audience to remember what we're going to say. That means we have to be as clear and concise as possible. We also have to create words, phrases, and sentences that the audience can see. And it could be as simple as saying, if you were in sales and you're reporting to your sales manager, if he or she said, "Oh, Patricia, at the trade show, do you have any leads?" "Yes, I have a ton of leads." Now, one, if you had a ton of business cards, you couldn't leave the facility. Let's face it. It's much more effective to be specific. You might say, "We had a lot of traffic at our booth. We had at least 500 visitors. 20% were our existing clients. We have 12 appointments with them to show them our new technology. Of the other visitors, there were 56 real prospects, and we've already scheduled follow-up with 12 of them." Again, can you see the value of being specific? So, Paul, could you tell me how many of our friends percentage-wise saw Darren LaCroix?
Yes, 57% of them did see Darren LaCroix while he was in Ireland, and 43% did not.
All right. Well, as I like to tell everybody who's heard Darren, I taught Darren everything he knows. I haven't taught him everything I know. Now, that is our joke, because you know Darren is very dynamic and can teach you about comedy and many aspects that I can't. So perhaps we want to see, are there any questions at this point about anything that we've heard? Any questions or comments about what I need to know about Ireland?
The comments, no comments have been made. There was an offline question asked by someone who wasn't able to make it. It is Cynthia, and she asks, "What is the #1 secret to giving a good speech?"
Well, Cynthia wants to know, and she didn't know by not being here, that we covered that a little, and that is, and it leads to emotional connection. If there were one secret, it would be that our subject is of interest to the audience. And of course, how we do that is you-focused language, is asking good questions in a conversational presentation using good eye contact, and through stories. Because stories emotionally connect with an audience. They also simplify the complex. Stories, whether people know it or not, are perceived as a treat when we hear it. If you're teaching something or talking about something that's complex, if you give a picture, let's just say you introducing new technology, you might paint a picture of what it is going to be like after you've all adopted and trained in this new technology. So you're going to paint the scene. Now that's the high level. Now you're going to go and say, let's look at what your screen will look like when you come to work on Monday. And then you help them visualize what's going to happen. In a technology demonstration, you would probably demonstrate it. So I hope that is helpful. And feel free if you have any other questions. We have another polling question for you. Is, would you like to know more Fripp speaking information? So let us know. I remember when I first went to Toastmasters, and for those of you at Toastmasters, I don't know when your club meets. Mine met at 7 o'clock in the morning. And what we found was people had a tendency to get there late. And so we always waited till they got there. When they elected me president, I started at 7 o'clock, even if no one was there. Went through the motions. And within 2 weeks, everyone was always there in their seats, at least by 3 minutes to 7 latest. Which is a very interesting lesson to teach, and that is you teach people how to treat you. You teach people what you want to expect, which leads to a very subtle way you emotionally connect to your audience, you feel good about yourself, and you get off to a good start. For me, this was natural. No one had to teach me. I learned it because it was part of my personality. I taught it to others, and it's what I call the schmooze factor. Before I speak to an audience, whenever possible, I will wander around the schmooze. I'll say, oh, don't you look nice? Or why, what's your interest in this subject? Why you here? I talk to them because whether they know it or not, we are all programmed with the law of reciprocation. If somebody extends themselves to you, you feel obligated to do something back. If you extend yourself to the audience, then they will respond, at least by giving you their attention for the first few minutes. Now, you have to keep it, you understand. If you're not good or not giving value, they might go to their mobile device. So based on that, Paul, are there any questions or comments?
Questions and comments, not at the moment. There was a 100% positive answer to the question, to the polling question, would you like more Fripp speaking information?
Well, good, because our friend Eric would want me to show you. So what we're going to do with the magic of technology, Paul. Let's see here. So first of all, we are going to go to, and you'll see a black screen for a moment. Paul, can you see my website?
Yes, it's up now.
Okay, perfect. The easiest way for you to know what is going to happen in Dublin is for you to go to my website, which is just fripp.com. And I want you to go down the page under that beautiful panel to upcoming events. When you click on upcoming events, understand I do have a couple of events before I see you. Then, can you see, if you go down the page, there will be 2 events when I'm in Dublin. One is under the magnifying glass, good to great on steroids, which will be Toastmaster group. It will be at the Citibank where we're having the Saturday event, and we're doing it Friday because some people want to come to both events. And then on Saturday it is a full, a full day event. Now you see, if you click here, and are you seeing this perfectly, Paul, so our friends can see it? Yes. Good. So what you can do is, we've got the location, the registration, and networking is at 9 o'clock. We're starting at 10 for people who are going to travel a long way. and you can see there is the location, and if you go down the page, there is everything I promise you will learn. There's even a video telling you about it. Now you can see there are a couple of places that you can register, here and farther down the page. Now when you click on here, this goes to the Eventbrite sign-up page that Eric's put up for this event. So that is how you do it. I'm going to come back to Google Hangouts. And please feel free, if there were any questions about that, it's fripp.com, Fripp.com, and then you go down the page to it's /events. And Eric said he is very pleased to have you call him or email him. So while I'm showing our friends some more Fripp information, what you can do, Paul, is put up Eric's email and phone number. Can you do that?
Absolutely.
Of course you can. Good. Now let's just say, Fripp, I like your information and I want to get prepared. Can you see Fripp VT, Paul?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. So this is my interactive, learn at your own pace, interactive virtual training on how to be more powerfully persuasive. You want to get promoted, make more sales, get paid to speak, or in general boost your confidence and impress your friends how articulate you are. This is a great place to go. So Fripp VT, and you can, when you first go there, I of course have signed in my account, you could get a 3-day free trial. So I'm just going to show you in the training center, we have 12 different courses broken into different chapters. So what we're going to do is just for a moment, and there will be a couple of seconds lag, but let's look at the importance of a good story.
The importance of a good story. Nobody can resist a good story well told. In this course, you will learn the techniques that will make your stories and examples memorable and repeatable. If you're ready, click the Start Training button.
All right, well, at the end of each course, you see you have to ask question. So, because we want to make sure that you know the information. But what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to show you something, and I'll talk to you. I'm going to turn the sound off, but you can see how to find content. This is the speech structure, connecting to your audience, stories, and razor sharp specificity comes in. Specificity builds credibility. So what we're going to do, we're just going to click on, you have openings. So feel free to look around, and what I'm going to do is turn off the sound.
Welcome to.
I am going to turn off the sound because you can go get a free trial and look around some of this. But as you can see, this is very interactive, and I promise, as interactive as this is, as easy on the eye, certainly when we are together in Dublin, we will make all sessions interactive. And if you would like to tell through the chat box any specific area you would like me to address on this call or when I'm in Ireland, feel free to put a subject. So now what I'm going to do is go back to the Google Hangouts where we are. So Paul, I am back, and do we have Eric's information up there?
Yes, Eric's information is posted in the chat window.
Okay, so it's in the chat window. Everyone can see that. And by the way, so Eric is happy to answer your questions because now it's getting closer. In about 5 weeks, we will all be together. Are there any specific questions or comments, Paul, that I need to know?
There was a question from Justin.
Yeah.
He says, for sales presentations, which is a better technological support, PowerPoint, Evernote, or Prezi?
I can only speak about PowerPoint because that's all I know. What I would say is whatever works with you best. You might try them all, and PowerPoint's the only one I've used. However, the most important part of this is that your PowerPoint or your Prezi is not your presentation. It is your visual aid. You are most important. You are the one who's going to develop the relationship, reach across the desk and shake hands. You are the one asking for the order. So although I'm certainly in favor of visual aids, you have to be prepared that if you walk in and a prospect says, I'm sick of PowerPoints, or sit down and talk to me, you have to be prepared to do whatever they want. Any more? Paul?
At this moment, it doesn't appear so.
All right, good. Then what I would like you to do, so one, you have the information for Eric, if you want to call him about the 18th of October or the event the night before, the 17th. Two, if you go to Fripp, Fripp.com, that's my name, go down the page to the events, you can read what's going on and link through. So all the information is there on my website. If you would like information, just to have a look around Fripp virtual training to get more of a flavor, you can take a free trial. And if you want to join and have me available as your speech coach 24/7, you can use the coupon code Dublin, and we certainly give you a 20% discount of a very affordable option. Anything else, Paul? Anyone else? Questions or areas they want me to discuss?
Not such as yet. There was another offline question that was emailed in. Oh, and
Yeah.
Justin says thank you for answering his question.
Okay.
And it was from Gregory. If I started speaking now, how long before I'm really good?
Well, Gregory and the rest of us, it would depend how seriously you take your study. As you heard earlier, when I was in Toastmasters and Dale Carnegie, and even when I first went to the National Speakers Association, we meet many people with great aspirations and big goals. One, be realistic. The only people we can't help are those who aren't realistic. At Fripp VT, at Toastmasters, certainly in our event, in the 18th of October, we are going to be presenting information that's taken me years to learn. So how do you get to be a good speaker? One, know what you do well. At least you might have a good grasp of your subject matter. Two, you need to learn, and this sometimes takes somebody else to tell you what you might be doing that is distracting from you being as good as you're capable of becoming. And three, you need to know more about the subject than you do now. In other words, you shortchange, we all shortchange our learning by going to someone who has already mastered what we know. This is why we make information available virtually, events like this, and the 18th of October. If you were willing to prepare, if you were ready to invest a small segment of time on a regular, consistent basis, you could be a much better speaker than you are now in a couple of weeks. If you want to be world class, it's going to take longer. The most important part is that you have an interest in doing it and a commitment to. I like to put it this way. Do you have an interest in being a better speaker? Do you have a commitment to be a better speaker? And certainly Toastmasters is a great way to start practicing. However, if you're really serious, you want career advancement, you want to get promoted, you want to make more sales, you have to be more of a serious student. And there is plenty of information available. And I appreciate that you found this helpful, and perhaps you want to look more. So with that, Paul, are there any more questions or comments?
Just one quick question from Kieran or Kieran. Will they have handouts at the presentation in Ireland?
You bet you will. So yes is the quick answer. We certainly have handouts, and we will make it very engaging in both sessions. There probably won't be a there will be one small handout on Friday night, because we're going to be more flexible and work off the audience. On Saturday, because it is structured to cover every part of the content that we promise, it will still be interactive. And although Eric says we're closing at, I think it's 4:30, believe me, if they lock us out of the building and you still have questions, I bet there's a pub around the corner we can continue our deliberations. I want to make sure you get your money's worth. So with that, Paul, does everyone know where Eric's email and phone number is?
Yes, and it will also be in the email that they receive with the replay information.
All right, perfect. And if everybody or anybody would like to sign up for Fripp virtual training, frippvt.com, use Dublin as the coupon code. However, there are free trials for 3 days if anyone wants to just try it out. So let us do a quick review before we let you go about your evening. And for our friends who are just watching this as the replay, I hope I will meet you in Dublin. All good presentations, whether they're formal or informal, long or short, need to start well, close on a high. Need to be simply logically and conversationally structured. We need to have good stories that include dialogue and characters and a point to a story. We need to emotionally connect with you-focused language, eye contact, and of course stories. And speaking as an audience advocate, thinking about what is this audience interested in, whether it's an audience of 1, 5, 50 or 5,000 before you start, and adding specific language that might also be visual. And I promise we'll learn a lot more about that in Dublin. And with that, I hope you will remember me, whether I meet you or not. Remember me, Fripp. However, much more important than remembering me, remember what Fripp stands for. Frequently reinforce ideas that are productive and profitable. If you want to be a good speaker, leader, sales professional, all learning needs repetition and reinforcement. You don't start, learn it, and think, oh, I now know it for a lifetime. No, we all know. And I hope you'll watch the replay even if you were live, because perhaps you would like to start remembering what you've already forgotten from the beginning of this event. Repetition and reinforcement. Thank you, Eric, for inviting me to Dublin. Thank you, friends, for tuning in or signing up to watch the replay. Thank you, Paul, for your assistance. And with that, I'll see you in Dublin.